Hey everybody, this is John and welcome to the free video. Let's take a quick look at the spiders here. So what's interesting is we're coming in to the markets after a long weekend. We've got a couple of things here. First, we've rallied back up to the 200 period simple moving average, right? And this has obviously been rejected multiple times. And so the question is, are we going to get rejected again? Now, one thing here is that when this happened here, we were extended on the momentum after a squeeze and we started to roll over. When it happened here, we were also extended on the momentum after a squeeze. Here, we're just starting. The other thing that I think is interesting, and I have this on SPX, not on SPY, if you look at this trend line here, right? Okay, if we take this to the weekly chart, this is like one of the mother of all trend lines here, and this is from that yearly high. And so this is a year-long trend line. And same thing here. If you look at when we hit here, we were in downward momentum. It was kind of a reactionary bounce. When we hit here, we were in downward momentum. It was a reactionary bounce. When we hit here, same thing. We had a squeeze. This is the first time where we've had a squeeze that's ready to fire to the upside. Right. So what do I think is going to happen here? Well, I know the news is bad. You know, according to the news, the world was going to hell and the economy is going into recession and there's inverted yield curves and all that kind of stuff too. But when things are so obvious, usually, the stock market is pretty good at anticipating things. And we've got some things holding up here where it's like unemployment, it's staying very low. Yes, there's some tech firms laying people off. Those jobs are getting absorbed by other industries that have been understaffed. All kinds of things like that. The other thing is China's been locked down for 3 years and now they're fully reopening. So is that going to take some of the sting off of it? So all this being said, this is a long way for me to say I am not looking for something where we crash into the abyss, at least in the first half of 2023. What I'm looking for instead, because the reality of it is we have been in trading sideways since about June, and I'm just looking for maybe in February, is that we test upward resistance here at about 4,200. So more specifically, what I'm looking for is that we come down, we got to come back to the mean here. We need to work off this overbought situation, and then we can roll back over and see if we can at least give this a stab and do what. And the other reason for this too is, remember, there's so many people short this market, like a record amount of shorts. We got to rip their heads off because, as we know, that the market is an equal opportunity dream killer. What about tech stocks? I'm not touching them. Here's the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is in a much different camp than the SPX. If we look at the trend line here, about right there, you can see that we're not really even near it. The squeeze could fire long and we could just test the upper end of it. Tech is a wreck, and I don't anticipate anything too interesting there for the foreseeable future, though of course it's had a great rally and it will continue to rally if SPX was rallying, but it'll be a laggard. So this is something to just kind of with caution. All right, so this kind of a market, what I found especially intraday, is some of the things we want to look at. So this is a quick trade that we did, and I'll talk about this here in a little bit. I talked about this a little bit already, but what I wanted to say here is that this morning we popped up, we did the call credit spread, and then boom, we hit our target and we're done. But part of this, what's really, really helpful is understanding patterns. Okay, so what was the pattern here that set this up that made this trade easier to do? Okay, like specifically right here, right? What was that pattern that set up? And it's funny because sometimes people ask me about specific patterns like that, but what I've always found is when someone asks me questions about a pattern, just like someone this morning was asking me about, hey, how do you recycle profits on SPX like Allison does? I'm like, I talk to Allison about that. Don't talk to me. So when we talk about patterns, if you guys are familiar with Chris Brecher, Chris was with us for a couple of years. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was great working with him. He went off, he wanted to try to do his own thing, and then more recently, we welcomed him back to the site, and he is the pattern guru. All right, so Chris is going to be doing a free webinar on his 3 favorite chart patterns. And this is going to be something where, so here's the thing with chart patterns, is that I've read the books on chart patterns. I'm like, oh, that's a head and shoulders, that's a bull flag, yada, yada, yada. And it's not that they're hard to see, okay? But the difference is that being able to spot one and then being able to understand all the nuances of how they work, that's something where Chris has been doing this for over 30 years. And he has shown me stuff with chart patterns that I never even knew existed. All right, and this is kind of that extra edge, because what happens is if you understand the chart pattern that's setting up, okay, you're going to get more of an edge because you're going to know what traders are doing. And it's like, okay, if the chart pattern is, whatever it is, I'm just making something up here. If it's doing this, then, the odds are 80% that this is going to resolve to the downside, right? And if it's doing it this way, the odds are 80% that it's going to resolve to the upside. And there's stuff like this, because it used to get me frustrated where I would do trades thinking that something was going to go up, and Chris would sit there and go like, John, I don't know, man. I think this is going to go lower before it goes higher. Now, I was holding on to this trade for a couple of weeks, but I thought it was about to break out. And sure enough, it would flush, and I would hold it because I was holding it for longer. But Chris would, rip it and make some money in the short term on it, and he was able to time that precisely. And I was like, I don't understand how you're doing that. And when he showed me, I was just like, okay, I need to keep an eye on this stuff, especially for these shorter term trades. So you can go to simplertrading.com/chart, put in your name, information, stuff like that too. He will go through all this awesome stuff and what he's learned over 40 years. And yeah, it's great stuff. And it can oftentimes, it's almost like taking a mask off, or, if you've been looking at the markets with your right hand covering your right eye, and now you can look at it with both eyes. It's just like so much more clean and clear about everything that's happening. So anyway, you'll love it. That's the info. You guys have a good one, and see you at the next update. Hey, John here with Simpler Trading. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, comment down below and let us know what topic you want to see us cover next. Also, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you can get notified when we release new videos. And if you want to watch us trade in real time using our own money, go to simplertrading.com and learn how to sign up. Good trading, and we'll see you next time.